Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Had a couple of you reach out to me recently asking me about slatted racks and noticing that I've been using slatted racks in my videos recently on the colonies, on the hives, and wanting to know what my opinion of these slatted racks are now that I've been using them for a couple months. So I guess I would begin with that. I've only been using these for a short period of time, so, you know, the jury's still out on, I guess, ultimately what I think of them, but I can tell you at least my initial thoughts and reaction to using them, and it is positive. So, what is a slatted rack? Well, this is a slatted rack, and so it's made out of wood. It's essentially a 2-inch shim all the way around. Actually, let's use the one that hasn't been used yet. So this is brand new. This particular one is from Man Lake. Good quality, made out of pine. Basically a 2-inch shim all the way around. There is a flat, what I would call almost like a entryway on the front. Think of it like how you would see a bottom board. It's almost very similar to how you would see a screened bottom board, except instead of having screen on the inside, you have these slats. Now, it is specifically designed to have 10 of these or 8, depending on what setup you run in your apiary, whether you have 10 frame Langstroth. I should have said that. These slatted racks are specific for the Langstroth, American Langstroth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 slats with this because I run 10 frame equipment. And it is specifically designed to match up with the frames such that these air gaps remain. So if you think about a standard deep here that has 10 frames in it, you would set this on top of the slatted rack. And each of these frames line up directly with these slats. So think of, you know, having 10 frames here vertically, 10 all the way across. And you still have these gaps here. So why is that? What purpose does the slatted rack serve? What benefit does it give the beekeeper, or what benefit does it give the bees? Well, there's a few things. So first, I think is kind of obvious. It provides a little bit more room in the colony. So historically, if you would just have a bottom board under your deep body here, your brood chamber, it would just be a flat board just like this. Especially if you used solid bottom boards instead of screen bottom boards, it would just be a solid piece of wood right here that would be underneath these frames. Well, that doesn't provide much room for bees to congregate. And so which bees would be doing the congregating? Well, it would be your forager bees. So super early in the morning before the sun comes up and all the forager bees are in the colony, or late at night when they're returning from foraging. If you don't have a slatted rack, other than them congregating on the very bottom of the bottom board, they being the foragers are going to be mixed up here with all the nurse bees, the queen, the brood, everything else, and they're going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? They're going to be congesting the brood area. And depending on what's going on, what are the ambient temperatures, what's the temperature in the colony, the bees, meaning the forager bees, could end up making the colony more hot when the nurse bees and the other bees that are tending to the brood are specifically trying to keep it 90, 95 degrees. So typically, what do you see when that happens if you don't have slatted racks, right? This is where you see in the hot summertime like we are right now, very beginning of September, late August, you start to see bees bearding on the outside of the hive. Well, oftentimes those are the forager bees that have returned to the colony, but they don't want to be all up in the brood rearing business. And so they're done with their chores for the day. They're there to sleep at night. but they're going to congregate on the outside if it's too hot inside the colony. Sun is still up, maybe it's beating down on the hive, it's too hot, forages return. They don't want to stay inside there making it extra hot in the brood area, making it congested, so they'll beard on the outside. Well, if you have a slatted rack, oftentimes they'll congregate right here on these actual slats or in between, or right here on this sort of pseudo, what I'd call bottom board entrance almost. And I've seen it. I've opened colonies, looked down in there, and I can see that there's a bunch of bees congregating on here. Plus, I have screen bottom boards out in my yard. I can hold my phone or put the camera on reverse and look up, and I can see that there's a cluster of bees on the bottom side of the slatted rack. And so it just gives more room inside the colony, gives the foragers a place to hang out. What does that also help? That also helps with swarm prevention. So I would say, one of the selling points of a slatted rack is also to help prevent swarming. So, swarming comes for a number of reasons. It's a normal, very normal activity for honeybees to perform. It's how they ensure the survival of their species. They split themselves into two. Every single honeybee colony in the world wants to swarm. So anything we are doing as beekeepers is going against the grain, trying to prevent them from swarming. We, typically speaking, as beekeepers, don't want our honeybees to swarm for a multitude of reasons. You lose approximately half or 2/3 of your bees. You can lose the bulk of your honey crop because you're losing your workforce, et cetera, et cetera. So this helps prevent swarming. Now, in my very non-scientific research analysis, just pure observation, I don't have any scientific data or studies or numbers or proof of this. Just looking and observing this year with colonies having slatted racks versus the other 4 springs that they have not, and what I have noticed in my yard in terms of the number of swarms in the trees that I personally have observed and or captured, I believe my swarming is down, dare I say, significantly from previous years due to the slatted racks. Off the top of my head, I think I caught 3 swarms in my yard this year. And in previous years, I've had 6, 7, 8 swarms in my yard. Roughly same amount of colonies, 10. 2 winters ago, last winter, I came out with 9 because I lost half of them. And still, I would say only 3 of them swarmed. Roughly. Maybe more swarmed and I just didn't see them. Very possible. Absolutely possible. But I haven't seen any late swarms yet. We're into September now. And that's new. Typically, I see late swarms in my yard. And that's one of the downsides, with running single brood management like I do. You tend to have more swarms than those that run double deeps. So maybe this is that happy middle, step in between running singles versus running doubles. So, again, non-scientific, but in my opinion, just observation-wise, these do appear to help suppress some swarming tendencies by keeping the brood area less congested, giving the foragers more places to hang out. What else? Typically, again, if you think of this and you got your bottom board right here, the frame, if there was a bottom board underneath this, there's not a whole lot of room here underneath, right? But if you have this slatted rack and you have the frames here, you do have more room with these slats in there, and you're also creating more of a dead airspace in between the screens of your bottom board. So rather than asking the queen to lay all the way down here when the screen bottom board is sitting right here and you could be getting, some drafty air coming up, this does create a little bit of a gap of an airspace, 2 inches, 2.5 inches, 3 inches between the bottom of the frames. Bottom board would be sitting here, and the screen of the bottom board's right here, so air coming up. So you've got a little bit of a gap here. And from what I've told from others that have been using slatted racks for a while now, they have noticed that their queens will lay further down on the frame all the way to the bottom versus maybe the queen only laying to right here because of the cooler temperatures down here below the frame. I personally have not observed that yet, but I have heard that is one of the benefits to having these slatted racks. What else? What any other advantages? From a mite treatment standpoint, if you use oxalic acid vaporization like I do, what I have done, personal preference, personal choice, I drilled a 1/4-inch hole on the back of all of these slatted racks. So there is a 1/4-inch hole right there that lines up just in between two of the slats and the bottom and top, right? Such that your vaporizer, let's think of how this would be. That was lovely. There goes the coffee. Dad, can you get me a towel or something to pick that up? That's what I get. So think of this sitting on here on the slatted rack. You'd have the bottom board underneath. This is the back of the, and you can see where I had this on a previous deep, but imagine you don't have a hole in the deep here. This gives you the ability to take your vaporizer gun and stick it directly into the slatted rack below the brood chamber and go ahead and vaporize with very little impact to the bees. Thank you. Good grief. All right, we'll get that cleaned up. So, again, that's just an option that you have. If you wanted, you could drill a 1/4-inch hole in the back of your slatted racks. Allows you to put, think of this being like the vaporizer. Could go in the back here, shoot with oxalic acid. The oxalic acid perforates all through the colony, pull it out, boom, you're done. And then I'll put a link to these little caps down in the description. But whenever you're not treating a colony or using oxalic acid, you want to cap these because the robber bees will try to find this as an entrance to get into the colony to do some robbing. So these are just little 1/4-inch plugs. This fits right in there. Boom. Keeps it plugged up until the next time that you need it. I've seen where people have used not toothpicks, nails. Golf tees. I've seen where people have used golf tees to do that for that very purpose. So far, I like these little plugs. They seem to be working out. And before I got slatted racks, I drilled this little 1/4-inch hole on the back of my deeps. The problem with this is that the frames in here come down to here. So if I didn't get it perfectly in between two frames, some of these deeps, when I go and put my vaporizer in there, the tip of my vaporizer is buttoned up against a frame. Not going to happen in this case because you can see exactly, like I showed you, where the tip would come out here in between two slatted racks. Perfect. So it makes treating the colonies with oxalic acid vapor even easier. Let me check my notes here, make sure I got everything. I guess the final point that I would make is just a little bit more protection from the elements. Drafts that may come in the front entrance of a hive too now have a little bit more cushion, a little bit more air gap, a little bit more bees. If they're congregating here, the foragers are going to, prevent that draft from reaching and chilling the brood. Especially in the late fall or early winter months, right? So I think that's it. Those of you that have, fellow beekeepers that have used these slatted racks in your operation, for years. Let me know if I missed anything. What are your pros? What are the cons, if any? Well, obviously, they cost money. It's yet another piece of equipment that you're going to have to maintain, that you're going to have to paint, fix if it gets damaged. So the these Man Lake ones retail for $32 on their website. And I can save you a little bit of money. If you use the promo code BeesInTheWeeds10, you'll get 10% off all your Man Lake orders. So knock $3.20 off of these. You know, it's a little bit of savings for you there. So use BeesInTheWeeds10, ordering from Man Lake. But these, you know, they're built really well. Is this something that my dad and I would want to fuss with and make our own when I can buy them for $30 or so? No, probably not. I do have a friend that makes his own, chooses to. You know, again, it's just a matter of what you want to do with your time and what resources you have. But I think they're relatively affordable in the grand scheme of things, with all things beekeeping considered. $30 for a slatted rack. Now, obviously, if you're a commercial and you've got, you know, hundreds, if not thousands of colonies, it might not be as practical. But for the backyard hobbyists or the sideliners out there, it is an option. Again, I think the jury's still out. I like what I see so far. I do believe that it's adding some benefits, but everything, all my observations are anecdotal. You know, no scientific data or research or anything along those lines, just based on my own personal observations. The bees do end up propolising everything, of course, so they seal all these gaps and everything, which is fine. And as you can see on the bottom, there's even more room for them to congregate down here if they wish. The bottom board would be flush right here sitting. So there's even a air gap right here versus an air gap underneath the frames and the top of the slatted rack. So I'm not sure who invented this, who came up with it. I'm not sure how long it's been around. I just have a couple friends that swear by these. They've been using them for years. They've been trying to convince me to use them. It's not that I was opposed to them. It's just another expense, right? Another $30, $32 times however many colonies you have, that adds up, right? So in the grand scheme of things, at the very end, I had just been kind of putting them off to buy other stuff. But I thought, this is the year I'll give them a try. And shoot, if these prevent just one or two swarms, they'll pay for themselves, right? I mean, get a swarm and a colony at $200 to $300 a colony, you know, saves you money there if your bees don't fly away. So anything else? I think that's it. Like I said, be sure to go to Man Lake's website, check them out. They do have 8-frame versions if you choose to run 8-frame equipment versus 10-frame. At a minimum, I would, as you see what I've done, I would paint the outside and I would paint the edges, just because that's what's going to be exposed to the elements, to the rain. I think you're okay getting away with not painting the actual racks themselves. Time will tell. I reserve the right to retract that statement several years from now if these start rotting, but it's just going to be moisture they're exposed to. It's not going to be direct rain or anything else. So no different than the inside of your woodenware here. But yeah, I think that's it. So as promised, this is my review of slatted racks. Kind of went over most of the pros, I believe. If I missed any, let me know. And then I think really the only downside is just cost. It's just an additional cost for you. But other than that, or storing extra equipment, I guess. But other than that, I end up securing these to my Apime pollen trap bottom boards that have the screws. So you'll see I'm in the process of replacing all of my screen woodenware bottom boards with the Apime bottom boards / pollen traps. And I end up screwing a slatted rack on top of each Apime bottom board, and it's worked great so far. That way I don't have to secure the Apime to the deeps. I secure it to the slatted rack, and I can take the deeps on and off, and only those are attached together. So, and it's worked out well so far. But that's it. that's my review of slatted racks. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. I hope you all have a beautiful day. God bless you and your bees, and I'll see you on the next video.